As parents, what do we need to really focus on? Is it the curriculum, the infrastructure, the teachers?
Every parent will have a vision for themselves, their families, their children. If this vision matches with what the school is delivering, the school promises, then that's a perfect fit.
What kind of child is Cambridge curriculum for?
Many parents who sit with the children even when they're in grade 8, grade 9, grade 10, sit study. It doesn't work like that anymore. How are you making that child independent? How are you making that child self-driven? So that's where the families and the schools have to work together.
Do you feel that are they really preparing our children for Indian entrance exams like NEET, IIT and JEE?
Entrance exams are more syllabus focused, time focused, and then practice. Concept gaps would not be there, but then content gaps would be there. International programs have realized, even Cambridge has come out with a bridge program now to fill in the syllabus, the concept gaps between the national and the international.
Most of the parents are relying on tutors, which is again expensive and time consuming.
I am not for it. What will happen is the tutor's style of teaching is different. The teacher teaches in a different teaching style. Imagine what we are doing to the children. Where are we student-centric?
All the top CEOs are around the world are Indian and they have studied in the traditional schooling method. Do you think that these children that have studied from international are going to reach that level?
Successful people.
Welcome everyone to Yellow Slate Podcast. Today we have with us Miss Hema from Santa Maria International School. With an experience for more than 20 years in varied curriculums like CBSE, IB and Cambridge, I'm sure she's the right person to try and understand which curriculum is right for your child. If you're a parent who wants to make the right choice of curriculum for your child, this episode is just for you. Hello, ma'am.
Hi, Deepthi.
Good morning. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me here, and it's absolutely my pleasure.
With the new changes that NEP has made, lots of educators feel that the difference between the Indian and the international curriculum is blurring out. What do you have to say about this?
So as an educator, I'm extremely happy to see these changes. Yes, I would agree that the borders are blurring, between the programs and the distinction. What I also feel is NEP is totally student-centric now. It is focused on literacy, numeracy, multidisciplinary. So these are the elements, essential elements that we have seen in our international programs as well. While the plan is extremely good and very, very student-centric, we will also have to ensure that the teachers who deliver this are given that enough support and equipped and empowered as well. So yes, it's a good thing in the right direction.
What do you think is the most important part? Is it the curriculum, the infrastructure, the teachers? As parents, what do we need to really focus on?
So I wouldn't be saying that one is apart from the other. When we put our children in the classroom, what is the kind of experiences that we give them when we are delivering the program? It may be a state-of-art infrastructure, or it may be some indigenous resources that we use. But the focus should be on ease the child learning. When our parents come and meet me and ask me these doubts, what I say is every parent will have a vision for themselves, their families, their children. So if this vision matches with what the school is delivering, the school promises, then that's a perfect fit. In case, let's say, I want my child to be educated in a traditional way, because I was the one, I also came from a background like that. In case parents are feeling that, and then they get into an international program which is all about skill development, competencies, research, etc., there would be a mismatch. So while I say that all three elements are important, I also emphasize a lot on the parents' vision matching with the school's vision. And that will be when the students learn better, and the progress will be just absolutely the way the parents have envisioned for their children.
Generally, parents feel that CBSE is more difficult. When we are talking about Cambridge, it is more application based. But a personal experience as my daughter goes to a Cambridge curriculum. Cambridge is definitely a vigorous curriculum when it comes to academics. Cambridge curriculum also has homework assessment, regular assessments.
Yes.
Of course, they are different, but it is not easy compared to your CBSE.
No, not at all. Not at all. There's a lot of responsibility from the student side also that has to be there. It's not just, you get into the class, learn, and then we are done with it. You learn, but then how are you taking that further? How are you using that knowledge and probably applying it and thinking critically, analyzing and presenting your thoughts. So this is quite heavy, yes. But at the same time, I guess these are the skills that we are all using in our real life as well, right? So nobody is just checking somebody's knowledge ability, content ability, but then how is this person being able to use that knowledge into real life? How is the person being able to apply that, the skills, the competencies that we are talking about? Let me also put it this way. When in Cambridge, we have a lot of group activities, we have project works, we have individual activities, strategies that we use in the class. So why do you think we put that? We put that because life is all about teamwork, collaborating, understanding somebody's point of view, using the same strategy, but then thinking critically. So this you would see as a difference. And the parents who want their children in Cambridge have to understand, yes, it is quite driven, quite heavy on the child as well. It is not a breeze like you were talking about. There has to be that responsibility from the student side as well. And yeah, like any program, there have to be these conversations at home around how the child is learning, what the child is learning. And I guess that's when the parents also will feel, okay, we are proceeding in the right direction.
True. Saying that, for which kind of parents is Cambridge curriculum? I mean, I'm a working mom, but I might not have time to sit with my child every day, checking her works, seeing to that she's up to date with all her work. But at the same time, the child needs to take their own responsibility.
Yes.
So what kind of child is Cambridge curriculum for?
For me, every child has an ability. Every child can do anything that we put them in. It's not that, Deepthi is ready for Cambridge, Hema is ready for IB, etc. That's not the way at all. So I wouldn't have any borders for any kind of children there. But when it comes to parents and then support from parents, yes, working parents, very difficult to give that kind of time and attention. However, the whole thought is behind making the child independent. So I would encourage the school, the teachers also to give projects or assignments or homework to the children where concept is taught in school, but that's continued at home by the child. Parents are there probably to supervise or emotionally present there for the child. Emotionally present parents always bring out confident children. So I think that is what the parents have to keep in mind. Right from day one, we have to make our children independent. I've also seen many parents who sit with the children even when they're in grade 8, grade 9, grade 10, sit, study, sit, study. It doesn't work like that anymore, right? So how are you making that child independent? How are you making that child self-driven? So that's where the families and the schools have to work together. Tasks given from school, can it be done by the child independently? Parent just monitoring, supervising, but encourages that study time at home. Do your projects or let's sit together. I'm reading, you do your studying, whatever. That sort of an environment will work well. It's not about the child.
Okay. Very well put, ma'am. Ma'am, the international schools, especially international curriculum, especially IB and Cambridge curriculum, do you feel that they talk so much about holistic development and all-round development of a child? Are they really preparing our children for Indian entrance exams like NEET, IIT, and JEE?
Entrance exams like NEET, IIT, JEE, etc. are more syllabus focused, time focused, and then practice. Our international programs or the frameworks that we work with are not time bound. I mean that you don't set a target to the children by saying that you have to answer these 20 questions in 20 minutes. That doesn't work. So that is where the schools will have to bridge that gap and put that extra help and support with a lot of practice, right? So international programs have realized, even Cambridge has come out with a bridge program now to fill in the syllabus, the concept gaps between the national and the international, one, and two, how can we give more practice to the children to ensure that they are able to take the entrance exams. It's never about the ability, as you know, right? It's about practice again, the same kind of questions, and then within so many minutes I find the answer. That's how the entrance exams are focused, right? So that is where the gap would be, and that's where international programs are also realizing. So Cambridge has this bridge program which is coming in, and which we would want to explore as well for our children who want to get into the entrance exam channel. And concept gaps would not be there, but then content gaps would be there. So how do we plan this? Again, I would strongly recommend the parents to sit with the school team, the pedagogical team, and work on the roadmap. IGCSE 9th and 10th has, it's a 2-year program. So from there, how do we work around stepwise? We don't have to know what career or which direction my child would get into. I mean, it's okay not to know as well, right? Everybody doesn't need to have the answers. But can we start those conversations? At least we can think of the possible directions that our children want to get into.
Ma'am, saying that now when the child is going to a Cambridge curriculum, but at the same time, child wants to attend these entrance exam, the child has to take a coaching outside. Is it true?
That's where I was talking about the bridge program that is going to come up, right? So, see, that kind of time investment, that kind of rigor, that kind of practice happens in these coaching classes. But if the school is able to extend, which would mean time investment from the student side, from the school side as well. If we are able to give that, I have quite a lot of students who've done both. But yeah, it is quite taxing on the child. It is quite heavy on the child, where he has to put in that extra effort. But hopefully with these bridge programs, that will iron out, is what I anticipate.
Ma'am, you've been in the industry for so long. Do you know any child who's finished from a Cambridge or an IB curriculum yet was able to master or pass these NEET and IIT?
Many.
Okay.
I have students who have been in the IB, who have been with Cambridge, and who've gotten into an IIT, or who've gotten into medicine as well, quite a lot.
In India.
In India. And what has happened is they have put that extra effort, and they have planned that path right from day one with the parents, with the school. They may have probably extended that, because Cambridge gives us that flexibility of taking those exams and all that. So they may have extended or invested a few more months. But yes, many, quite a lot.
Ma'am, you were talking about the bridge that the Cambridge curriculum is trying to come up with,
Yes.
wherein it's going to bridge the gap between the Indian competitive exams and the international boards.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that?
So just about a few months ago, when we were having meetings with our Cambridge representatives, see, that's one good thing about Cambridge, I would say, that I have experienced, that there's, people are always available. They know that education is evolving, it's dynamic. We have to cater to the needs of the students, and it's always students at the center. So when we have certain requirements like the entrance exams, and this is how we would want our children to proceed, etc., the gap that we have seen, I wouldn't call it a gap, I would call it how the programs are implemented. So what we see is syllabus wise, there would be certain topics which are probably not covered in Cambridge, let us say. So identifying these topics, and how do we help the children learn these topics, plus ensure that there's enough practice given to the children to take up the entrance exams, is what the bridge program will all be about. Honestly, even I have to learn a lot about this because I've just heard, and I was very excited as many of the parents keep requesting us to support them in this journey for their children because they don't want to lock their children only in an international path. So we Indians want our children to explore Indian universities as well. So nothing should be a deterrent for the child. Options should always be open.
Are the children who have studied in international curriculum at any level better than the ones who have studied Indian curriculum?
I would only say that the life competencies and the skills that is much required would be displayed better by children who have experienced Cambridge or an international program versus a knowledge driven program.
So, as parents, what do you think we'll have to do, especially when we were talking about bridging the gap? Parents, what do you think we'll have to do?
I would encourage a lot of conversations, Deepthi. If you have put a child in a school or a B school, trust that school. Get into conversations with the pedagogical leaders, with the head of academics, with the principal or with heads of departments, etc. And then the career counselor, right? Figure out, okay, these are the elements that I want my children to get into. This is the subject, this is the career. Those conversations will always help a lot. Initially, you may not get the answers, but when you drive these conversations towards what the child really wants, you will be able to find those answers. So trouble the school as much as possible by asking them a lot
Asking
of
them
questions.
As parents, we have no idea how the teaching method is. Probably we do know the subject, but we do not know how the subject is being taught. Where for that, most of the parents are relying on tutors, which is again expensive and time consuming. What do you have to say about that?
This is what I hear constantly from parents all these years. Okay, let me take you back to around 15 years ago when I started learning about IB. Okay, I started getting into the uh, program details and then how is this program executed in classrooms, how is it different, etc. So when we asked the same question to our mentors, they said that the first thing you have to tell your parents is don't teach because
Okay.
you are going to confuse the child, right?
Yes.
So you're either going to confuse the child or you are going to put your thoughts into the child's mind and say that this is the answer.
Okay.
For example, I'll tell you something. So there was a question in a national curriculum paper for a grade 3 or 3 student, which said that what is what is the liquid that you use to clean the floor, etc. Okay, they wanted disinfectant as the answer. Okay, but the child wrote Lysol. Okay,
Right.
for me that is correct,
Yes.
but the teacher put a wrong and then they said that no, you have to write disinfectant.
Right.
Okay, and that's the right answer. So you get my point?
Yes.
So this is how we would be feeding our ideas and thoughts and stop the child from being creative, thinking beyond and out of the box, right? No, you have to answer ABC and that is it. You have to answer ABC. An elephant is gray and elephant is cannot be pink. So there are so many things, and that's how I was informed and I was coached and mentored. Please tell your parents not to teach the child anything. Let the child explore. In case you want to help the child, if there's a topic on photosynthesis that you want your child to understand, give him the resources, books,
Okay.
or probably some videos, or have discussions, have conversations around that. Simple.
Right. So you say no tutors.
I am not for it. I will also extend that a little bit. If the child needs that extra support, okay, if a child is not able to understand the concept in the classrooms, then we'll have to visit our classrooms to see how learning is happening. Is there high impact learning? By that, I don't mean only the children who are loud. Generally, they
Yes,
get the
yes.
attention. So, is that one child who is quiet in the class? Understanding. So, that is what the school promises, and those are the discussions that the parents have to have with the school. And both of them have to agree that we have to meet the child at his or her level,
Right.
not bring the child to the level where everybody is. That is the main objective, yes. But the pace, everything defines by the child's individuality, his learning style, her learning style. So ideally, I would want that to happen. But then many a times I also know that we have tutors mainly because we feel very comfortable having somebody teaching the child as well, right?
When you were telling, ma'am, when we have to go to the children's level, when I was growing up, I remember we had different sections and we had teachers teaching the same subject in different sections. So let's say grade A was mostly the toppers. B was mediocre. C were the ones who would not, really difficult for them to understand. But the teachers used to be different for all the three sections. The I remember going and sitting in a C grade section once. The same topic was taught so easily for them to understand. Do you think today, the teachers today, there's no discrimination?
No.
Everybody
No,
is together.
no.
But in the same class, we have 20, 25 children, especially in international schools. Do you think all the children are on the same level and they're able to understand what the teacher is trying to teach them?
No, they are not. That's where we have a lot of these collaborative planning meetings. You have your learning objectives. You have to take that to the class. You have the how to teach. But then catering to the level of students is very, very important. And that's where the difference in international, program that you were talking about also comes into picture.
Yes.
If you are true to what you have to do as an international program delivery, you need to cater to the levels of the children. That's where differentiation comes in. There are certain things that all of them move at the same level, but there are certain concepts you'll have to make it easy for children. That's where the cluster seating happens. It is not a it's not a seminar kind of a setup, but it's a cluster seating, the group activities where you bring in these strategies, the same concept, but you're teaching the children at their level. I'll keep it very simple. Additions. We are talking about additions. Somebody can do just 2 plus 2. Okay. Another group can do 2-digit additions. Another group can do 3-digit additions, right? So that means making a child who can do this above level do a 2 plus 2 is keeping him doing nothing.
Yes,
right?
it's boring for the child.
Yes. So your plans, my planners always have 1, 2, 3 strategies. And I give it based on the level of difficulties that the child can take. This is an ideal situation, and that is where the schools have to empower, equip, train the teachers to deliver such things. To deliver, and that is where once the child understands the concept, you don't need that additional tutor, extra support. What will happen is the tutor's style of teaching is different. The teacher here teaches in a different teaching style. Imagine what we are doing to the children. Where are we student centric? I would want these conversations to happen among parents, between school, and these are the conversations that should happen during the PTMs. How are we helping the child? What level?
So, as a Cambridge curriculum teacher, if I have 20 children, wherein 5 are amazing and the rest are okay, so do you, as a teacher, will I give the extra work for those 5 children because they are beyond their level?
All children are amazing.
Yes.
So we will talk about the challenges that we give the children.
Okay.
Yes, you should be giving something which is challenging enough to keep that child engaged in the class. One, Cambridge is all about peer teaching as well. Many a times it works, sometimes it doesn't work as well. So how far will the teacher be able to use that? Peer teaching is something that is at the discernment of the teacher. But yes, there have to be challenging tasks, there have to be simple tasks. Can be the same concept, but that's how it has to be delivered. That's when your children understand the concepts better.
What about the child who is not able to grasp the concept in the class and is finding difficult when the child goes home to, even do a simple homework given by the school. As parents, what do we have to do?
We'll have to check the reason behind that, Deepthi. Okay. Any teacher cannot generally categorize a child, no, this child is not able to do something. At the same time, any teacher cannot be, we should not be doing that, I've tried my best, but then this child is not learning. We should find the root cause. There may be many things, cognitive, or there may be not just interested. I will also tell you something very probably thought provoking. The child may not like the teacher also.
Absolutely. That happens quite a lot of times.
Yeah. So this is because children learn best from teachers that they like. So I want my teachers to put in a lot of effort connecting and bonding with the children first. And then they learn, right? How they learn is something, again, the teacher has to identify. But yeah, in spite of all these efforts, if there are still, gaps where we are not able to help the child, there are other levels of assessment probably we'll have to bring in.
If parents have a problem with the child's academics, the parent can always come directly to the head of the school and discuss about it.
My approach is that the child in my class is a whole world to that parent outside my class.
Yes.
That's all I tell my teachers. So if a parent is coming to me with some angst, then what is happening? Let me evaluate, check. Not every parent who has some expectation is wrong. At the same time, not every teacher is wrong. So let me try and see if I can iron out and ease out this. So those conversations, Deepthi, very, very important.
The international curriculums by itself is expensive. Is it really worth, as a parent, for me to invest so much in my child? More than invest in my child, it's more for the international curriculum.
Why did this thought come from? Where did this originate? Why did we incline towards international programs? Where is the genesis? Somewhere as parents, as students, we felt that what we were experiencing is not what the new generation will be facing. So I've also heard, I'm not really very sure, but then this is just hearsay, that the content that was delivered in engineering a few years ago is not relevant at all. So if it is a content driven setup and then I feel that I don't want my child to be experiencing that, isn't it? That's when I incline towards an international setup, which is giving me skill focus, which is giving me life competency focus, which is giving me, that overall development that I would want to.
At what age is the right age to start that discussion with my child about subject selections, the way the child wants to go? Let it be introducing the child to different universities, different entrance exams. What is the right age to do that?
No age is early. No age is like too late also. That's how you start building those interests and kindling that curiosity in a child's mind. So now I've heard that in India, we have the highest number of female pilots, lady pilots, right? So where did that start? It's the passion, it's those discussions that they've been having with their families. So I see, maybe middle school is a better time, if you have to ask my perspective, my point of view, just to have those early conversations. Deciding, I have seen many students who get into grade 11 also and not very sure of what they want, which is also fine.
It's okay.
Yeah. If somebody else has decided their path, doesn't mean that you need to have a ready-made plan for your path as well, right? So it's absolutely fine.
Ma'am, as a parent, if a parent wants to change the child's curriculum or school, which is the right age or a grade that the parent needs to make that choice?
What I would advise the parents is, after having a lengthy conversation, after having decided something, stick to that. Okay, do not keep making changes, do not keep jumping. If you really have this issue of relocating and then you're getting into an area where you do not have a national curriculum, etc., as per the, I'm talking about Indian national curriculum, then primary would be probably the right age.
Primary,
Yeah,
not even
beyond.
middle.
No. Yeah. Children do adjust, but then if you are ready to take that little bit of extra effort, if you are well settled in one area, do not jump from program to program to program. I wouldn't advise that at all, because I've seen teaching style is different, assessment is different, the way things are planned is different, the way things are presented, recording, reporting, everything is so different. And imagine what the confusion would be if you're gauging your child's ability based on marks or ability to based on how the child speaks. I would want parents to stick to one program and not make frequent changes. I have seen people jumping from one program to another and coming back to this program.
Right. It's not advisable.
Why do you want to put the child through that? Is my question.
In the Cambridge curriculum, once you are after grade 8, you need to make choices for your subjects. And each school offers different choices in subject. Is it a curriculum? Is it the Cambridge curriculum structured that way?
Cambridge itself has multiple subjects, I think more than 100, which we can offer. Schools, based on the convenience of delivering the program, fitting it into the timetable, getting teachers the resources, ensuring that the number of hours that is required to deliver the program is taken care of. All these are discussed, and that's when schools decide these are the subjects that we will offer. And the varied options is what the students benefit. So I was just sharing with somebody, right? So you have a physics, chemistry, math, and then you can have a psychology as a combination.
Right.
So that's the flexibility that Cambridge gives.
Let's say the child has taken all sciences and A's.
Hmm.
But when the child comes to A
12th grade.
12th grade,
Huh.
the child 11th grade, 11th
Huh.
and 12th, the
Huh.
child do not want to do sciences.
Hmm.
The child wants to change the stream after 10th
Hmm.
into commerce
Mhm.
or finance. Is the flexibility
Yes,
available?
yes,
In
absolutely,
Cambridge?
absolutely.
So the number of papers, minimum papers a child has to give in grade 10 is
Hmm.
5.
Grade 10 is 5 years.
And the maximum papers that the child can give in grade 10 is?
Up to 8, it again depends on the school and then the I certificate that they want to get and all that. Yes.
So the final exams for grade 10 happens in their own respective schools, unlike the Indian
Exams
education.
happen in the own schools, but papers come from Cambridge. Papers go to different examiners for correction.
Okay.
That's how it is.
That's how it is.
Yeah.
All the top CEOs are around the world are Indians, and they have studied in the traditional schooling method. So, do you think these children that have studied from international are going to reach that level?
Successful people in the world in whatever domain that they choose, right? And I would want that to happen. And that's, that's the day when I'll put my feet up and say, yeah, I'm done as a teacher. However, having said that, I would also want to say that, the backgrounds that we come from, we had certain knowledge, we were equipped with certain knowledge, okay, some knowledge. And then there are certain skills that we had to learn and develop. I'm sure you've heard of this quote by Alvin Toffler, who's an American writer, futurist. He says that the illiterates of the 21st century are not the ones who can't read and write, but who cannot learn, unlearn, relearn. Those are the skills are what we are helping our children. I never get into a class as a knowledge giver. I learn so much from children. Digital literacy, they can tell me so much more about AI than what I can tell them. So I think this is what is the difference. Our children will be successful in whatever domain that they choose.
I have interacted with few educators. Most of them have a common, I would say concern. They say that the teacher quality level of the teachers is not up to that mark for the international standards. Do you see the difference? And if yes, when is the gap going to be covered?
So, Deepti, when I recruit teachers, there are two things that I look at. the aptitude to learn and the attitude, right, to learn. Content, as we discussed multiple times, can, if you have the attitude and aptitude to learn, knowledge you can always. Mm, But are you getting into the class to implement and ensure that all your children are learning? Not just your B.Ed, not just your any teacher qualification, but then that will and then that intention matters the most, which cannot be evaluated at one interview or anything. So, getting back to, this is what the school wants, this is what we have promised to the parents, and this is how we will implement. We will have differentiation, we'll ensure every child is met at his level. Those kind of support, training, coaching, mentoring has to be given to the teachers. That is where I was always talking about empowering and equipping the teachers, right? So I would say that there are a lot of passionate teachers, and I would, as I mentioned earlier, I would want to think that 95% or 100% of people who get into teaching is
Are
because they feel, they are passionate about teaching. So, how is the school planning? Like how we have differentiation for children, we have plans for each teacher. This teacher is very good with classroom management. This teacher needs some subject knowledge, So we plan our training depending on the need of the teacher as well. Support as much as possible before saying that you are not good, you are good, etc.
Is there a shortage for these teachers?
I would want to share this way. In the US or Europe or anywhere, there are gentlemen who want to get into a primary school teaching. There are gentlemen who are amazing kindergarten teachers.
Yes.
Correct? Here in our country, you think of how many would want to get into a primary school teaching or isn't it? So I wouldn't say there's a shortage. I would say that the entire approach towards teaching, even when we ask our children, how many of you would want to be a teacher?
Yeah. True.
In all our discussions, we spoke about IIT,
Exactly.
NEET, we didn't speak about teaching.
True.
So yeah, I think the awareness, the value that we give to our teachers, that is where the root cause is, and that is where we need to be working upon.
Ma'am, we hear a lot of the educators, especially from international curriculums, telling us that marks are not important. But when it comes to universities, let it be Indian or even international universities, marks, having good grades is almost like your foot into the door. Beyond that is what all your extracurricular activities talk.
Yeah.
But marks do count, right?
I would want to share here that the scenario is changing for the better, I would say. Marks is one very important component, definitely. But then universities want a well-rounded profile. We were talking about the portfolios earlier, right? So what kind of internships has the child done? What kind of community service that the child was involved in? So, and arts and music and dance and all that, was the child a part of it? How about leadership events, or was he a part of student council, or has he led any event by himself or herself? These are all points that add, that give that universities give a lot of value to. So it's not, marks is one important component plus these as well. So there are universities, during interviews, if the children are able to share their vision, universities are floored as well. The admissions officers, all of them, they really like, yes, this is the child that we would want. Who knows, can be probably a Mark Zuckerberg later on, right?
True.
So that's how the scenario is changing now. World is changing.
Ma'am, with a lot of the international brands or a lot of the international companies coming and acquiring a stake or a share in the schools, how is it actually benefited for the parents when something like this happens, when an acquisition happens?
The world becomes smaller. Okay, we look at it this way: your child is attending a school in Hyderabad, but is getting to meet children all over the world. Your teachers who are teaching your child are interacting with colleagues all over the world, learning so many things that can be applied here. And then we are all talking about a diverse culture, inclusive, all this, right? So you start at this level, you start at this phase itself. So that's one advantage. And another thing is, education is so evolving, and there's so much. We spoke about AI, we are talking about ed tech, we are talking about focus on life competencies, which we were doing probably in Gurukul time and all that, right? So we are getting back to life competencies and skills and all that. So those sharing of experiences will help the child. So all these schools are student centric. So every experience that comes in will help the child. And if it's moving my child from one level of competency to another, that's the best thing
As a
that I can
parent,
do. Yeah, as a parent, as an educator, that's the best thing that I can do.
the conversation was really, really insightful.
Thank you, Deepthi. I enjoyed myself a lot. Thank you. You stopped me at the right time because I'm a teacher. I can go on and on and on.
Thank
But
you so much for being
thank
here
you
today.
so much for inviting me.